this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Deluxe Jango Fett for the Vintage Collection. So this is probably a very controversial action figure. Some people really love it, and then some people absolutely despise the action figure. I'm one of those people that I think we are closer to the definitive Jango Fett than we've ever been, but I still don't think we're 100% there. There's definitely a lot of components about this action figure that are missing that are essential for Jango Fett. And it is, because it's a deluxe action figure, you're paying a deluxe price. This is definitely not a $25 value action figure. There definitely could have been a lot more Hasbro could have included with this figure. But thankfully, we do have a lot of the spare or extra parts that Jango could use for other action figures, mainly like the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. And of course, older Jango Fett action figures, we have some of those components as well. So you can make your own definitive Jango Fett, but you really shouldn't have to borrow parts from other action figures as an essential thing. If you want to do it for fun, yes, but those are all parts that probably should be released with this set anyway, and especially for people that may have missed out on the previous releases of like Boba Fett or Jango Fett, for instance. This is a good way to be able to catch up on a lot of those parts. And I'll get into some of those here in a little bit. Mainly it's his extra jetpack that we see him on Kamino with, and then like his flight gear, things like that. This action figure did not include any of that, which is very unfortunate. And one big component that's missing on this Jango Fett that's very essential for him to have is the triangles on his helmet here. This is probably one of the very first Jango Fett action figures that is missing those, and I'm looking at the Black Series ones right now, and they do have those, even if they're ever so faint. And I do have a few other Jango Fett action figures that I'll show here in a minute, and they all seem to have the triangles there as well. So it's really unfortunate that Hasbro missed the mark with that, and I think it's because they're just reutilizing the helmet from previous Mandalorian action figures, and they repainted it. Yeah, there's so much to get into with this guy, and we'll get into more of that here in a minute. But I'll show off the package here real quick. It's a shame that it had to be in this deluxe box. It would have been nice to see Jango Fett in all his glory. Too bad he had to fall over just now. Yeah, he's a little difficult to get the stand to. But yeah, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Jango Fett, showcasing some of the accessories there. He does have this flame effect for his gauntlet there. Image of him there. Because he's in this Geonosis setting, it'd be nice if Hasbro did do another Geonosis arena. Doubt they ever will, though. So these are all the parts that Jango Fett comes with. Now explain to me exactly what's deluxe about this. It isn't. Even the original TBC Jango Fett, I think he was VC34. I think he came with a whole lot more components than this new deluxe figure. I have heard arguments as well because of the paint. Something about paint is very expensive these days. It makes the action figures much more costly to make. And I've heard various arguments about that. Some people say, oh, that's a legitimate argument, and then others say, no, I have my sources within Hasbro that say, no, that's all nonsense. It's hard to say. And then one more image there. Still, it would have been nice to have this Jango on a card. Maybe Hasbro will do a re-release someday of that, but they would probably charge a deluxe price for that. And yeah, here's all his accessories right here. Incredible, isn't it? So overall, yes, it is a very nice Jango Fett. I am glad to add it to the collection. But we're still not 100% there to definitive. But it might end up being our definitive Jango Fett, because I don't know when Hasbro's ever going to revisit him ever again in TVC. Unless it's just a straight repack, that is. So we might have to make do with this. So the paint is very nice on it. They did a very nice job with his armor. And a nice glossy shine to it. The helmet, other than the triangles, it's very nice as well. Proportions are right. This is one of those action figures where Hasbro did instead of a removable helmet, it's just a swappable head. This is gauntlets here, and even though you can plug the flame effect, the gauntlet here, it is discreet enough where it's not bulky or looks oversized or anything like that. Unfortunately though, this flame effect, it doesn't really stay upright, I guess. It is kind of difficult to get in to that spot. And it's really about the best you can do. And it does have a major droop to it. I can't say oh yeah. His rangefinder, at least for my sample, does not want to stay in the place very well at all. It's supposed to be a rotating rangefinder. It does have pistols there, which I think are basically like the same exact ones. No, they are different actually. So they might be all newly sculpted pistols for Jango. And the main giveaway to that is at the end there. It's separated. The holsters, they look a lot better than I thought they were going to look. Here on the package, they look extremely large, I guess. Much less discreet compared to previous action figures. In fact, I'll bring one out right now. This might very well be my favorite Jango Fett. Look how discreet his holsters are on this. This is the one where you can pop the head off. Yeah. Nice knee armor and shin armor there. For his jetpack, he has his second one. Now in the video game Star Wars Bounty Hunter, he actually gets this in the first mission. He ends up taking it off the hands of a vendor there. He does have the flame effects there, which are kind of tricky to get into place there. You have to kind of break that hole a little bit to be able to put the thruster effects in. And one thing I did want to try real quick is taking Boba Fett's jetpack and see if it'll work there. This is the Return of the Jedi one. Let's see. Should work. And sure enough, it does. So yeah, like I was saying, we kind of have all the parts that Jango Fett will need scattered out and about. But for this being a deluxe action figure, he really should have included all these. And a lot of people might have missed out on this Boba Fett by now, so... this might be the only jetpack I can think of that would fit. Let this stay in the place pretty good. Now he does have the swappable head underneath, and I have to admit, it's a very nice head sculpt, but this looks like a much younger Jango Fett compared to what we see in the movie. Jango usually has a lot of those hardened lines around him in his face there, and it's not as prevalent here. I think they tried a little bit, but Could be a little bit better. And then Jango just doesn't want to stand very well. The hair too. Something about that hair just looks a little bit off to me. And I'm sure a lot of the head sculpt there, they're just reutilizing from previous clone heads. Yeah, so that's what the barbell point looks like. But maybe over time it'll grow on me a little bit. We're used to looking at certain characters a specific way, and it's just a little bit of different appearance to Jango Fett than I'm used to. Show what his previous head sculpt looked like. You know, this one's still not that bad. Of course, this one has the painted face. But both capture the likeness pretty well. I know some people will probably scoff at that right now, be like, "Oh, really? You really think that 2007 head sculpt basically is still pretty good?" Well, yeah. But I think for most intents and purposes, I'm going to be keeping Jango with his helmet on. It's a shame that the rangefinder here had to be so loose. It can be kind of tricky to get into place too. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to show. I will do one more thing real quick. See if this flight gear will actually fit around his head. And sure enough, it does. But yeah, other than of course the poncho, I'm sure the poncho would work, but I'm not going to take that off the older Jango Fett here. That takes a lot of time. Let's see if we can get him in a kneeling pose here. His holsters are a little bit restricted on his hip articulation though. And just because of the bulkiness to it. Speaking of articulation, he is super articulated all around. He does have the, as you saw, the ball point at the head there, and the hinged shoulders, elbows, hinged wrists, I think. Yeah. And joint at the torso, hinged hips, swivel thigh, hinged knees, and hinged ankles, or rocker ankles. One other thing I'll note is with his belt there, you can see he has a little bit of that gap between the armor and his belt. I have seen some people where they boil the figure and then they raise that up and it looks a little bit better. But honestly, it's not that bad on my sample. I've seen, like here on the package here, that's much more prevalent there compared to this figure. So it's not too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about this new Deluxe Jango Fett. So would I recommend him for your collection? like I said, I think we are closer to a definitive Jango Fett for 3 3/4 inch scale than we've ever been. But there are some improvements that need to be made. I would say we're about 90% there. Similar to the Han Solo from the Return of the Jedi review previously, the VC281. That one's much closer to being the definitive Han Solo, but we're not quite there yet. And same thing with Jango Fett. But overall, I'm happy to own the action figure. I did end up paying the full $24.99 for it. I didn't originally intend on doing that, but I got free shipping for adding him into the cart, and plus, you know, it's Jango Fett. He's one of my favorite characters from Star Wars, so even if he's not 100% there, it's always nice to add another Jango Fett to the collection. And overall, I'm mostly satisfied with him. I do hope Hasbro revisits Jango again sooner than later. I don't know if they will at this point. It's been, what, 13 years now at this point since we've gotten a Jango Fett last, and 13 years from now, is Hasbro still going to be making Star Wars action figures? Who knows? But I would like to see them give it another try, and I think if they can improve on a few things, the triangles on the helmet, maybe a few more accessories, small things like that, I think we will then have the definitive 3 3/4 inch Jango Fett. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I just appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you have not done so already. As always, thanks for watching.